Please take this opportunity to turn off your cell phone, pager, please, all the way off, so it won't interfere with the sacred space that we will be creating today. And then say hi to your neighbor. We here at the Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living welcome you and honor you wherever you are on your spiritual path. The words to this morning chant will be up here, followed by a spiritual mind treatment by our senior minister, Reverend Karyl Huntley.
Let's all stand up. How about you? Let's get some energy moving, okay? Oh, I know there's no coffee this morning, but we got to make it happen anyway. Let's let the music wake up. Sing when your spirit says sing. You gotta sing when your spirit says sing. When your spirit says sing, you got to sing right along. You got to sing when your spirit says sing. You gotta play when your spirit says play, play, play. You gotta play when your spirit says when your spirit says, you gotta dance when your spirit says dance. When your spirit says dance, you gotta dance right along. You gotta dance when your spirit says dance. Pray, gotta pray when your spirit says pray. Gotta pray when your spirit says pray. When your spirit says pray, you gotta pray right along. You gotta pray when your spirit says praise. So sing it again. Got to sing when your spirit says sing. You gotta sing when your spirit says sing. When your spirit says sing, you got to sing right along. You got to sing when your spirit says sing.
Spring. We have distinguished guests this morning. So before I pray, I would like to introduce to you Bob and Barbara Grabowski, both stand up, both ministers and very, very, very instrumental in our international ministries. So blessings. And Reverend Tom Tyson is here visiting. Welcome. Do we have any more ministers? Do we have any more future ministers? Who knows? Well, with that celebration, please turn within with me. And remember with me that the glory of God, the life of God, the eternal presence of Spirit, the maker of all, is all there is. And all that is made by that one process, that infinite creative capacity that can take our thought and make it into form. And so I know that that is exactly what happened with me. I am an idea in the mind of God, that is made into form. And as this is true for me, it is true for every blessed being in this room. It is true for every spring blossom that is opening this morning. It is true for every leaf that is unfurling on the trees as spring moves north. And so it is that in this glorious spring morning, with all of that feeling of new beginnings, I claim that in me there is a reawakening, a rebirth, a resurgence, a resurrection. All of those words that mean the same thing, that something new is bubbling up through my consciousness, through my love, through my heart, and it is spilling over. It is blossoming forth. And as I know this for me, I know this for each person here, that the old is over and the new is emerging. And so for what that means in each heart, the new that is knocking on the door of the heart right now, saying, let me out into expression, that we just need to say yes. Just yes, yes. That is the spring message, yes. And so as we all say that eternal and internal yes, everything is set in motion for great good in every single life. So with thanks, I place this into that creative law that already has a hold of it and is making it so as I have spoken. And so it is. Amen. Good morning once again. I pretend I love all seasons, but gosh, spring is great, right? Woohoo! So I'm very, very happy to be back. And back here this morning with us is Christine Tulis, our beautiful angel of a harpist. And so if you would welcome Christine and just open your heart to her beautiful music. And I'm so, so glad each one of you is here. Christine.
Thank you, Reverend Karyl. It's delightful to be back with this community again. So the first piece I'm going to play for you this morning is an instrumental, very, very happy, lighthearted piece called Leela, which is a Sanskrit word which means the play of soul.
Thank you so much. That just is so beautiful. I love harp. So I have a couple of announcements in the announcement section here that came just this morning. The first is our own Bob Gordon, who's doing sound this morning, was asked by the CEO of our entire movement to be on the SOMARC board. And the SOMARC is a part of our organization that deals with our trademarks. So the Starburst is part of the SOMARC. I don't know how to talk about it, but he does. I mean, he's the lawyer. And so he has accepted, and so we have a member on the international board. Woohoo! Yay, Bob! So that's such fabulous news, because the next one isn't such fabulous news. Our coffee pot walked away at the yard sale yesterday. And so we found this out this morning. So don't go back there with a sad face, because there's no coffee. And so we have tea. We have tea, but we have no coffee this morning. So, wah. You know, so I'm going to ask Marilyn to come up now with the rest of the announcements. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Marilyn Letzos, and I get to be your practitioner of the day. And so as we always start our announcements with gratitude, this morning I would like to express our gratitude for all of the teachers who so consistently work with our little ones, the teachers who work in our education program, all teachers. And if it weren't for, of course, teachers wouldn't be here if it weren't for learners. So I just want to express my gratitude that we're all learning from each other. We're all each other's teachers, and all each teacher's learners. Also, in blessing our little ones this morning, I would like to invite you to remember when you were a little child, the first time you did something that was so far out of reach you never dreamed you could. The first time you rode a bicycle without training wheels, or the first time you floated in water, or the first time you balanced on ice skates, whatever. Do you remember that feeling of amazement and surprise? Well, I would like you just to remember that for yourself and bless the children as they go on their way to their lessons, because you can do it. Okay, well, my first announcement is about a class this afternoon that I will be facilitating, and it's called Quick Start. It's a 3-hour jam of the principles of science of mind. And what I love about it is it talks about the creative process, how our thoughts turn into become our experience, our things, our the conditions in our lives. And it talks about how to use that power consciously. And I would love to share that with you, whether you're here for the first time or whether you are. It has been part of the foundations class. So if you're taking foundations, it's a wonderful accompaniment. And if you are interested in attending, do please sign up over here. That's very important. Thank you. Well, Easter is next week, and the sign-ups are filling up. We still have lots of room for people to sign up to bring. Of course, it's much more fun to participate when you've brought something. We could use more salads, more desserts, and more side dishes, and maybe a ham. That would be helpful as well. What a celebration. First of all, we'll have this hat contest. So you are invited to wear a hat with anything that you would like to put on that hat. Design it up, play it up big, because you'll be amazed at the hats that you'll see next week, and it's really fun to be in the contest. Also, there is there's an Easter egg hunt for the kids, and you're invited to contribute those little plastic eggs. Do we have the eggs for people to fill?
No, they bring the eggs.
Okay, so to fill those little plastic eggs then with candies and things for children.
$100 bills.
Oh, yes. That's always welcome. Wouldn't that be amazing? So Deborah Welsh and Tom Merrill are in charge of the kitchen, and all of you are invited to participate in a great and joyful celebration. Denise Johnson, would you please talk about the basket auction?
Hi, I'm Denise, and I'm in charge of collecting all the baskets. We're going to have a silent auction next weekend, and we still need people to sign up to bring a basket. And the basket can be anything. Go through your house and put together some, goodies that you no longer need and you want to re-gift. It could be a way to promote a business. It could be anything. Anything, be creative, and any size, it doesn't matter. There's lots of different size baskets in the stores today, so grab one, fill it up with some goodies, and bring it next week. We're looking forward to it. There's an example over there on the table, and the sign-ups are there.
Some of the baskets have even been rumored to have a practitioner session, a certificate for a practitioner session in them. Peter Canova is coming April 7th, straight from a packed house presentation at our convention. Peter Canova will weave his amazing research into the divine feminine, early Christianity, the secret teachings of Jesus, quantum physics, and more. Please, let's see, here are flyers. These flyers are on the table over there, and it would be lovely if you would take one and put it up at your local bulletin board, perhaps at the local post office. There are places that would be great to put these up so people can hear about it. And you can sign up also at the back table there, the same table where you can sign up for the Easter celebration. Mary Cosgrove has an announcement about the human race.
Hello, everyone. Has anyone here participated in the human race before? So you guys know what it is. It's this is the 31st year of the Marin human race, and Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living is participating this year. And I think we participated in the past, maybe 6 years ago. But I'm really excited to help coordinate this, and it's produced by the Center for Nonprofit Leadership in San Rafael. And it's a way for Marin charities and nonprofits to raise money. And we have a team. So I'm going to be over at this table over here afterwards, and there's lots of information. We'd love to have, you don't have to walk. You can help at the booth in the community village afterwards. If you do want to walk, doesn't matter how slow or how fast you go, as long as you're participating and having fun. So I'll be over there. Thanks.
Sue has an announcement. Quick one. Thank you. Ellie has an announcement about a singles party.
So those of you who are single and somehow aren't on the singles list, if you want to come to a party, we're having a party, a potluck party, Saturday night. It's coming Saturday night. We'd love to have you grab a flyer or come see me afterwards, and I'll, send you the directions. It's, watching married people have all the fun.
Thank you, Ellie. Well, now I know this is all fascinating and wonderful, but I also know what you are all waiting for, and that is to hear from our very own priestess of possibility, Reverend Karyl Huntley.
So, one more really, really, really lovely and important announcement, and that is that our own Gene Langell has published a book, and he is going to sign it for you this afternoon. So, Gene, if you'll just stand up, and the book's, yay! So I'm going to read a quote from it here. It's on your bulletin. This is a quote from Ernest because the book is about Ernest. It's called Hi, I'm Ernest. I think we should feel as though we are on a mission, not a mission to save souls. They are not lost. If they were, you would not know where to find them. But on a mission that glorifies the soul, the beauty, the wonder, the delight of something that sings and sings and sings in the soul of man. We have a song to sing, and we have a joy to bring to the world, and a love and a peace and happiness. So, Jean, could you just speak from over there? We're having a little feedback from the microphone today, and you've got a big voice. Okay. Okay. Aw. Great. Thank you, Jean. Congratulations. Okay, now, my turn. We're moving into the message of the morning, although we've had a lot of messages already filled with joy. Our theme for this year is the New World and the Ancient Path, and it's depicted by this Celtic cross here. There are Celtic crosses for you to take home, those of you that don't have them already, and they're on the events table and on the newcomers table. And what we're doing is the ancient part of the ancient world, the ancient path in the new world, is the seasons, because every single culture, every single religion on the face of the planet started in the seasons, praying for rain at the right time, praying for less snow when they wanted to till the soil, praying that the birds wouldn't take all the seed so that they could have crops. And so the religions started as ways of speaking to that which was larger than the individual who was trying to grow dinner. So this season that we have been moving into, from the darkness into the light, this week we passed this line right here, which is the spring equinox, where the day and the night are of equal times, 12 hours. And so as we move into greater and greater light, we move into greater heat and greater activity. But the activity that happens right around this time is the theme for March, which is resurgence. And so we have had 4 Sundays so far in March and a very early Easter at the end of March. And the topics that we have talked about in resurgence are rebirth, vitalize, bloom, and my word today is play. Because when you see the baby things in the fields, they are playing. You know, the little lambs and the little colts are just frolicking. And if we tune in to the feeling of the season, we get that too. We get that feeling of wanting to play. And that is what I want to. Now, some of you look a little sleepy this morning, so I want to just, you can lean into spring, people. That's what we're going to do today. And as a matter of fact, in my research, I found this great, great, great quote, which I'm going to say, and then everybody's going to repeat it, okay? I'm so young, I can hardly stand it. No, now isn't that great? Let's do it again and then make a little scream. I'm so young, I can hardly stand it. Wow! Yay! Okay! That is great. Now, you were right in that word play. That is wonderful. And I'm going to send you on my letter that I send out as a recap to each Sunday. I found this video of this baby elephant in a mud hole slapping his little trunk. And I mean, well, he starts out by when he gets it, that mom is taking him to the mud hole, he runs. And then, I mean, the energy of play is so great, you're just going to want to keep it there on your desktop. So I'm going to send that in the letter. And if you don't get the letter, all you have to do is go to our website and press subscribe, and then you'll get a letter every week. 2 letters every week, a recap and a preview. So now I want to tell you the story, a beautiful, beautiful spring story from ancient Greece. And although we call it mythology, in the history books of 4th grade Greek children, the first chapters are about the gods because they feel they are history. Much like we feel that our Old Testament is history and not myth. This story is as sacred as the stories that we are more familiar with. The stories of Moses, the stories of Jesus, and the stories of Buddha. This is the story of Persephone and Demeter. And this is a story that was told and reenacted for over 2,000 years, longer than Christianity has been Christianity, bringing people to the ultimate mystery for all those years. And so this is more than an interesting mythological tale. It is a story of us, of our rebirth. And so as the story goes, on a beautiful, beautiful day, when the flowers were coming up in the field, Demeter, who was the goddess of the earth's fertility and everything that grew on the earth and all of the grains, she was responsible for creating food for everyone. And she was also responsible for all of those beings that the food fed, like the deer and like the people and like the bunnies. And so her beautiful daughter Persephone was in the field picking flowers, and all of a sudden the earth shook, and then this great crevice opened up in the earth, and a team of black horses pulling a black chariot with a god in black garb came riding up out of the crevice in the earth, and Hades, the god of the underworld, grabbed Persephone and then plunged that chariot right back down into the earth, and it closed up. So Persephone was taken into the underworld, and her mother, with a lost child, a child that she had held in her arms that was gone, screamed and tore her hair out and looked for her daughter on all corners of the earth. She asked all of the gods where her daughter was. Her hair became straggly. She didn't eat. She didn't care for the earth. Everything died, and it was a mess. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Persephone ate 6 pomegranate seeds. And so because there was, this is I actually wrote to a Greek friend of mine and I said, can you give me some insight into the Persephone story? And he said, oh boy, you have asked about the most complex part of a very complex set of a very complex family. And so, to make a long story short, Demeter made a deal. And the deal was that she could get her daughter back, except for every morsel that she had eaten, she would stay 1 month in the underworld. So that's how we have the seasons, because Persephone spends 6 months of the year in the underworld and 6 months in the upper world with her mother. So the idea is that at springtime, she comes up. So you know how I said that the chariot was thundering up out of this crevice in the earth? Well, I think that's how Persephone comes up. She doesn't crawl up some, little gopher hole. She makes her own crack in the earth, and she comes flying out of the underworld and lands on the fields and embraces her mother, and we have springtime. So let's hear that again. I'm so young I can hardly stand it. Yes! So that's Persephone. So this energy of spring and leaping and soaring and lightheartedness is this energy of spring, and we can use this to fuel the endeavors of our life. And so far here in our community, we have had ritual blessings coming up to this moment. We have had the seeds that we blessed. We blessed the planting of the seeds. And now, if you're paying attention, you can see little bulbs coming up, sprouting up out of the earth, all these little green shoots. And that is what this time of year celebrates. And as we see them breaking through the earth, this altar here is done by Suzanne Mabardi. And this is so beautiful because this is like the underworld and the earth, and then this spring just leaping up from out of the earth. And I think that this ball here is magical. So because if we turned it on, you would not look at me. We are not turning it on until after the service. But you really have to check out this altar as we drink our tea and have our cookies. So that's what this season is about, that we take this energy and we look at all of the things that are bubbling up in our life right now, and we know that there is a season of work between now and harvest. And we're going to go right around that circle, and we're going to have all of the help that you need to nurture what you're growing so that you can have a great harvest. But the title of my talk is It's Time to Awaken. But what if some of us are awakening to things that are not joy-filled? What happens if, for some of our lives, it feels really false to say, I'm so young I can hardly stand it, and to have this kind of screaming ecstasy around you? By the way, I'll just put play up there because that's what our theme is today. But if what you're awakening to is something that is hard and not lighthearted, you might be wondering, where is the play? So, you know that I draw from my own life a great deal to talk to you. And over the years, since it's been since 1989 that I've been a minister, so I've had a lot of weeks to live through with a talk at the end. That's how I kind of feel about my life. I live a week and then I give a talk at the end of the week. So this week that I was absent from you, and Andrew Bozeman was your speaker, I was in Boston, and I was attending the opera that my son conducted, and the opera was Dead Man Walking. I saw 4 performances of Dead Man Walking. And as I looked at the word play, the lightheartedness of play, and I looked at this experience that I had with 4 performances of Dead Man Walking, I thought, well, this is going to be a very interesting juxtaposition. And so this talk is for all of us that have hard things in our life in addition to joyful things. Because if you remember, how many of you saw the movie in 1995 with Susan Sarandon and Sean Penn? Quite a few of you, but some not. So Dead Man Walking is a true story written by Sister Helen Prejean, who was a sister in Louisiana who began writing letters to a convicted murderer on death row, and they were pen pals for a while. And then she got a letter saying, they are going to kill me. And so she went to visit this murderer, who in the show, actually, she was there. Sister Helen was at the performance. And the truth of the matter is that this one character, who's called Joseph Desrochers, is actually a combination of two men that she accompanied to execution. So she goes to visit Joseph Desrochers and begins a relationship with him and begins the witnessing of the agony, the suffering of Joseph, Joseph's mother, the parents of the two teenagers that he murdered, and walks with him through his confession, because at first he was saying, I'm not guilty, they're going to murder an innocent man, through his confession to the time of his execution. And this is also the story of the opera. And so we see the character of Sister Helen meeting up with Joseph Desrochers and the agonizing conversations that she has with him, the agonizing conversations with his mother, and then something so interesting that is so precious about Sister Helen. She did not go to the parents of the murdered children. And she has regretted that her whole life, because the parents of the murdered children, she said, I'm here with a convict. They don't want to see me. But in reality, she was afraid to go and meet with them. Whereupon they, in addition to all of their pain, became resentful that this good nun was helping this murderer and not them. And she becomes so compassionate with that realization that every opportunity she has, she admits her mistake. And I heard her at lunch. I heard her in a presentation before the opera. I heard her from the stage right before the curtain went up. And I watched a video of her on YouTube. Every single time she has an opportunity, she said, I made a mistake. So, Sister Helen has accompanied 6 men to their execution. This is her life work to do away with the death penalty. And she remains lighthearted and funny and filled with play. She is compassionate and passionate, and she speaks with this ecumenical broadness. I mean, she quoted Buddha, she quoted the Bhagavad Gita, she quoted the Quran, and she is all about oneness and healing separation. Now, she says things like, if you believe that capital punishment is justice for the worst of the worst crimes, then when justice is carried out, the reflection stops. Do you get that? And she's from the South, where most people are in favor of the death penalty. And so she, and that's the way they talk about it. Justice is done. You don't love your loved ones if you're not for the death penalty. And so she says, when that happens, when you execute someone, then the reflection is over. Have we done the right thing? You don't ask those questions. She quoted Faulkner, William Faulkner, who said, the only thing worth writing about is the human heart in conflict with itself. I think sometimes in religion, we do not go for the human heart in conflict with itself. We go for easy answers. And in many beginning religions, when you just come in, there are rules. You know, there's what's right and what's wrong. There's good and bad. And when we live according to what is good and bad, there is no reflection. And if we live according to what's good, then we're good. And if we see somebody that doesn't operate according to if they participate in the bad stuff, then they're bad. And there's no reflection. Even our beloved Ernest Holmes, who I love and adore, and the teachings, I believe, are the most powerful on the planet. But from page 107, he writes, "The world is beginning to realize that it has learned all it should through suffering and pain." Now, if we just toss that out, if we just speak it, let it lay there in the middle of the room, someone who is suffering is going to think that that's pretty heartless and pretty shallow a statement. And if we who really believe in the science of mind say, well, I can't be going to that suffering place because I should have learned all that I came here to learn through suffering, and so I have known it to happen, that the suffering is pushed down, and we speak affirmations. Now, there is a place where suffering is stuck, and I think that's what Ernest Holmes is talking about. A place where people go into a petrified zone of suffering and grief and resentment and hatred for life, far, far, far from "I'm so young I can hardly stand it." And that's where they sit. That is the suffering that we don't need to participate in. And then there is the suffering that I witnessed in this beautiful, beautiful opera that was moving to redemption, moving to wisdom, moving to compassion. And that is when suffering is fabulous, because it takes us down and underneath all of those things that we have not reflected upon, which it's more comfortable to just say that's bad and I'm not going to think about it. And as we come up, and as Sister Helen can do, hold it all. Hold the suffering of the parents, hold the suffering of the murderer, and see God in every face. When that happens, the suffering has been for good. At the end of the opera, Joseph confesses to the crime in the last minutes of his life. And there is an embrace between Joseph and Sister Helen that is so filled with love. And the line, Joseph says, "Don't you hate me now, Sister Helen?" And her answer is, "Joseph, God is right here. And I see God in you." And then he says, "I love you, Sister Helen." She says, "I love you, Joseph." And that redemption moves throughout the audience because, and this is the greatest thing, I've lost my place in my notes, but I have a new definition of forgiveness that came from Sister Helen. And it is keeping the love intact. Forgiveness, keeping the love intact. And you know, I think it's bigger than forgiveness. I think it is the clue to moving through suffering of any kind. And that is when we can keep the love intact. And sometimes we can't. I mean, there were times in that story when You hated everybody, and you could tell that they were hating each other, the characters on stage, and that was the suffering part. And then you move through that suffering part, and the characters end in love. In love. And if you saw the movie, that line, Joseph, I want the last thing you see on earth to be the face of love. Let me be the face of love for you. And we see this execution on stage with the needle going in the arm and him looking at her and her looking at him and her hand up against the glass. And you know that he is going from one place of love to another place of love. So let's see back at Persephone. Can you come back with me to Persephone? As queen of the underworld, because that's what she becomes, Hades grabs her to make her his wife. And 6 months of the year, she is the queen of the underworld. And as queen of the underworld, after she gets her bearings, here is this, as powerful as Hades, and she helps heroes navigate the underworld. In the stories of ancient Greece, there are a few, Heracles and Odysseus for two, that are heroes that have a job to do in the underworld. And they traverse the underworld with Persephone's assistance and then arise on the land again. Very, very few people who have ever traversed the underworld come back. And so, of course, this is symbolic. The underworld is all of that stuff down here. It's our unresolved issues, it's our pain, our confusion, our suffering. It is that morass of suffering that is down there, pressed down, and if we don't navigate it, part of us will be lost in the underworld. And so it was through Persephone's ministering that the heroes were able to go down layers and layers and layers and accomplish their heroic feats. And for us, that means going through layers of memories and feelings and pain and current pain until we're transformed by keeping the love intact. That's what that means. So Persephone's return to the land in spring is also everyone's story. It's not just Isis and Persephone and Inanna and Jesus who went into the underworld and died and were resurrected. It is all of us. When we keep the love intact, we can move through the underworld of our own suffering and emerge onto the land again in this springtime. And as we have traversed the suffering, the play, the feeling of, I'm so young I can't stand it, is even more pronounced. And that really is the message of spring. So, the question at the end of my talk is, of course, an opening into your work. How do you go through the darkest experiences? And how are you transformed? And how do you resurrect into the new life if you're suffering? And I highly, highly, highly recommend taking classes. I highly recommend seeing a practitioner. But the path is the same. It is moving through the suffering and keeping the love intact until you emerge into the light. So, blessed be Persephone and all of those magnificent examples from spring stories around the world that tell us the same thing, that we can emerge from the darkness of death, the darkness of winter, the darkness of suffering, into the light by keeping the love intact. So we're going to have our inner work now. And the inner work has a song that is exactly what we're talking about. We haven't really sung it. It's by David Alt. And the words, I'll put the words up right now. It's I Return. I'm gonna pray a little bit, and then Bodhi and I will sing it. If you know it, sing along. Then I'll pray a little more, and then we'll sing it again. But just let your heart open to the process of emerging and rebirth right now. So turn within. No need to look at the words right now. And reflect a moment about the hero's journey that is from a place of equilibrium into a place of disequilibrium that usually involves great challenge. Challenge that threatens our very life or the way we think about ourselves. And through helpers of various kinds and enormous work on our own part. Heroic work. That's why it's called the hero's journey. Heroic work. We move through a portal of transformation and we return. Each one of us can and will return to the light. No matter how long this hero's journey takes us, no matter if it is a lifetime, the map is there for us. If we traverse the light, the darkness with love, we will emerge into the light. So let's sing through this once.
I return to the source of my creation, opening to the place of transformation. Now I see love lives in me. I return to the glory of our oneness, flourishing, fearless, free, and fully conscious, mightily I stand and sing, I have returned.
And with that beautiful sense of returning, experiencing our oneness, experiencing the flourishing, the fearlessness, the fabulous feeling of emerging from the darkness and into the light, transversing all of those feelings of separation from our good and entering into the oneness, maintaining that deep reflection that what seems bad may not be bad, and moving through the suffering that the confusion causes. Always, always, we will return. I return to the source of my creation, opening
to the place of transformation. Now I see love lives in me.
our journey. And we are all here to help one another. Blessed be.
Radiant Spirit of love, you are the core of my being. You whisper secrets of God in the hidden chambers of my heart. Illuminate my vision. Teach me the path of love. Help me embody your beautiful ways, that I might share your grace. Radiant Spirit of love, source of goodness and light, your beauty shines like a diamond in the hidden chambers of my heart. Illuminate my vision. Teach me the path of love. Help me embody your beautiful ways, that I might spread your grace. Radiant Spirit of love, source of goodness and light, your beauty shines like a diamond in the hidden chambers of my heart. Illuminate my vision. Teach me the path of love. Help me embody your beautiful ways, that I might bring your grace. Help me embody your beautiful ways, that I might be your grace.
pretty perfect. So now is the time for our tithes and offerings. I'd like the ushers to get ready. And I'd like it if we could all give whatever we give today with the idea of keeping love intact in every single place in our lives. And when we watch television and when we read the newspaper, to just know that love is that connecting pattern on which everything is strung. So taking your gift in your hands and putting it near your heart, infusing this gift with all of your love, knowing that right where we are, the fullness of God is. And as we open our eyes and look at any face at random, it is the face of God, the face of love. And so it is.
Come, come, whoever you are, this caravan knows no despair. Come, come, whoever you are, come. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, come. Even if you've broken your vows, perhaps 1,000 times. Come, come, whoever you are, come.
And that is my message for you for next week as well, for Easter. Please come and please bring friends. Reverend Lloyd, our founder, will share the pulpit with me on the 30th birthday of our church. I have spent my life here. I just realized 30 years. Bless the offering and bless you. So it's time to close down, and Marilyn will pray us out. Please, the practitioners that you might have some big work today, come forward, and please enjoy the tea, and the altar will transform as we have our social hour, and if you'd like a hug, please fall into my arms.
And practitioners who are present in the room, would you please surround the room in the safety of your love? And I invite you now to just come within deep into your own heart, into that place that always was and always will be. And from there, I open to the experience of that one great life, that vast, infinite sea of light and sound and love that is beyond my ability to understand or conceive. Love so real it is more real than anything. Unconditional love, infinite, compassionate love, the foundation of everything, love. And this love is the reality of every being. Each person is one with this power which knows all things. And so I speak my word into this power which manifests my thinking because I am one with it. I speak my word for every being to be so filled with this love. To know that this love is the foundation of our universe, the foundation of our being. Safe, sure, and holding us in its embrace, even as the caterpillar fearlessly becomes a cocoon of liquid before emerging as that butterfly. So each one of us is sustained through any pain, authentically experiencing the complete spectrum of life, so that we may emerge once again into joy, joy that just won't stop. I give thanks that life is good, that there is nothing to fear, and I give thanks for love. And so it is. Amen.
Okay, on your way, stand together. Let's say once again. I'm so young I can hardly stand it. And now with this affirmation together, the lightheartedness here, the lightheartedness of spring lives in me. There is no circumstance that can move me from the buoyancy of my own consciousness that is bursting with joy. I throw off any remnants of darkness